So do you think I'm a man with too many grinders? Just like hammers, I don't think you can have too many grinders. Angle grinders, bench grinders, any kind of grinder. This one's a 5-inch. That's a 5-inch, I believe. These two are 4.5-inch. This one's rated to 10,000 RPMs. I don't know if it spins that fast, but even if it spins at 7 or 8, and this one the same, 10,000. I think this one's like 7,000. I can't, so small the print on there, I can't read anything. Yeah, I cannot see that. So, what I find with the wire brushes, which you can do a lot of stuff with those little cup wheels, wire brush. You can put them on these, they'll fit on every one of these grinders, but they spin too fast and the wires just fly out, especially if you catch a sharp corner, if you're cleaning metal with sharp edges. So what I do is I also have two other, I didn't bring them up here. I have a 7-inch Bosch angle grinder, big one. It's monster. And it's probably 12 or 13 amps. And I also have a Makita, similar to this one. It's a sander polisher. So you've got the variable speed. You can slow it right down to a very slow, it's a random, it's a variable speed motor in it. So, and I find the wire brushes can handle the slower speeds a lot better. They don't fly apart. Now, a wire brush will last you the whole job rather than, you can go through one in 15-20 minutes on these high speed ones. So the other thing I didn't mention is once in a while I get in here with the air gun with the compressed air and I blow out all the dust and dirt. So I try and do that every 3 to 6 months. So if you think I'm crazy and I got too many grinders, you're probably right. The two Metabos are staying here. This one I think belongs to work. I don't think I have one. I think I have another one of these in the basement. I have one. I think there's two here. One of them's mine. One of them's belongs to the workshop, so it'll go back. And this one here, that's mine too. Okay, well I got that upcoming rebuild on this little fella. And there's a few little things in there you may want to know. In my video I got coming up, I talk about buying a Metabo. Well, I do have two Metabos. I bought them over the winter, end of winter, early spring, late winter, and I'm going to give them a shot here at the home shop. These are for my home, made in Germany. These are supposed to be really long life motor, quick change, no tools required for this. You just push on it, you lock your, and I don't know, supposed to be able to be quick change. Yeah, there we go. Just use your finger and turn it. This is the cheaper model that they make. How many amps are these? Let's see. 7.2 amps. And this one's bigger. So this is probably 9.6 amps. This looks like a little grinder. It's very similar in size to this, but it's got, 30% more bang. And then I have my older Makita, which I'm a big fan of Makita. It's just a simple rat tail grinder, 5-inch. I don't know how many amps this is. You can't read that label anymore. It's probably 7 or 8 amps. So the one in the video I got coming up, this whole shaft came right out. The clip inside, on some reason it came off and the whole shaft flew out. I pulled apart that this shaft fell out on me yesterday, and there's a Woodruff key. I opened this up. Couldn't find the Woodruff key, couldn't find the C-clip, and I found this though. If you can see that, that's stripped. So that's a little like pinion gear type of thing, and there's the big gear. And the big gear looks fine. But these are a matching set, so I happened to find an old grinder with a motor burnt, not running, burnt motor. Pulled the whole end off, and I took the pinion, the small gear, I don't know if it's called a pinion gear. I took it off there. That's just, there's no There's no woodruff key, there's nothing. Just the nut pushing against there holds that on. So I opened it up. Now, I've had the problem with these in the past is they start to vibrate like crazy, but there's nothing wrong with them. Just these 3 screws get loose, and these are in behind the little gearbox. So you can't see them. And those 3 screws just have a washer that hold that bearing in there. That's the bearing right there. You can see it turning there. And the bearings are usually nothing wrong with it. It's still good. But because the 3 screws are loose, it feels like the bearing's gone. So a lot of people, I'm sure a lot of people throw these grinders out when they do that, but it's a real simple fix. You just pull the cutting wheel off. You see, to access these 4 screws, pull this cover off, get in behind. I pull these right out, put some Loctite. This is a piece of plastic. That must be ABS. ABS plastic. Cheap. If it was aluminum or anything other than plastic, it would probably last longer. So I Loctite those screws in, and while I'm at it, I Loctite these 4. And so what happened was, on top of the gear being stripped, this screw here wouldn't come out, so it broke. I used an extractor, and it broke off, which was good because I could get in there and see what was wrong. I never did find the woodruff key, so I think it fell out. But it's still a few good parts. The bearing's still good. And probably the armature's still good. Switch is still good. But the motor's burnt on this one, and it's probably from, you can see in here, a lot of cement dust. They have a hard life, these little grinders. So they're just cheap made in China stuff. I'm going to buy, I think I'm going to get myself a couple of name brand like Bosch, or I mentioned yesterday Metabo, or Walter and Metabo. They're too expensive, but they make nice grinders. They'll last a long time. But because I have so many of these grinders, I was buying these on sale for 20 bucks or so. And I'd buy 2 or 3 at a time. So I think I have about 8 or 10 of them. And so I've got one with a grinding disc, one's got a cutting disc, one's got a small wire brush. What kills these grinders is putting too big of a wire brush on there, or an oversized cutting disc. And another one has a sanding disc. It's here. I just looked at it this morning. It's over here. I got 2 with sanding discs, these flap discs. So they're kind of handy. You just grab whatever you need and use it, you know, instead of when we used to have 1 or 2 grinders, we were forever changing these discs, switching for what, you know, at the moment what you need. And sometimes you need 2 or 3 at the same time, so you're just forever switching. So I'll keep this. I don't know if I'll ever need this. There's nothing wrong with this part. And I'll keep the bearings, but that's the weak point with these little grinders, and I'm sure a lot of them are like that. Those 4 screws, those 3 screws. So if you have one that's doing that to you, that's probably what it is. Anyway, I put some more grease in there. I smeared a little more of this wheel bearing grease in. I try not to put too much, and I put a little bit of 80W90 gear oil in there. Just a little, maybe half a teaspoon or a teaspoon or so. I find the gear oil allows the oil to slosh around and keep wetting the pinion. You get a lot more life out of your stuff if you have. And it thins the grease down a little bit, so I think it works better. But maybe that's what killed it. I don't know. Seems to work for me. So I got this grinder back working. I'll have to add a 17 here somewhere because it's been rebuilt again. The bearing seems tight, so while I've got this thing out here, I decided to pull this back cover off. I don't go in here very often. Usually when I gotta go in here, it's because I think the brushes were still good on this, even though the motor's burnt. So I thought I'd just look in here and see what we got. Well, I wrecked that brush. Anyway, I can't do any more harm to this thing. That brush looks fine. It's in my hand, sorry. Yeah. A little tiny little motor. And the switch. It's back here. Look at all the cement dust in there. Okay, here, look. I was mentioning how much rain we got in the month of May. On the 30th of May, they were saying 175.8 millimeters, which is just a hair under 7 inches. And the old record was 168 or something, 166. So we're pretty close to the old record, not really a huge gap between the old record and the new record. But last year we had under 40 millimeters. There, I pulled out what I had there in the drawer. I might even have more than these. So I got 2 with cutting with hard discs. Usually one of these has a cutting disc. And third one, the worn out disc, that should be changed. 2 with sanding discs. And this is the one that's going in the for the parts bin if I ever need it. And so that's 5 that are running. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm sure I have a couple more somewhere. And I've got the big fella. When I'm doing the blades on the tractors, I got a big one. And this one's old too. I think it's a 10 amp or 12 amp. So this one, you have to have the blades off the tractor to use this one for sharpening. But when I do them on the machine, it's usually with one of these, and sometimes I'll put the blade on backwards just so I don't so then I can come in on an angle. I can come in when they're mounted. Here's a worn out blade, and if I got the blade on backwards, I can come in like this and just sharpen the top side of that while it's still on the mower. Saves a bit of time, but you're not balancing your blades when you do that, so all my blades are balanced. I'll only sharpen them like that a couple of times, and to balance them you gotta kind of, I put them on a screwdriver. This one's pretty balanced, even though it's worn right out. We're not using these anymore. But if I go and cut some field that I've never been in before and it's full of rock, I'll put these old blades on rather than damage a brand new set. And I do that for some customers. People invest in a property and then the city complains they're not maintaining it. So I got a couple of jobs like that I do once or twice a year. But if you put your screwdriver on there and to get it to balance, you're way over here. You know you need to take some weight off the end that's closest to the screwdriver. So you're basically, when it's like this, you got too much weight at this end, and you know, too much. And you have not enough weight on this end, and too much on this end. So let me see if I can find one that I've welded. I'll just take the MIG welder and lay a bead down right here on the back side, rather than take more metal off and shorten the life of your blade. So let me see if I got one. I'm sure I do. So I can't find one that I welded on, but I found this one that's missing a chunk here. So you know from looking at this end's still intact, that this is going to be off balance. And it's off a little bit. It's not off as much as I thought it would be. So your bearings will have a shorter life if you don't keep your blades balanced. That's something to think of. Here's the little wire brushes that I use on these little grinders. If you run something bigger than that, like this would be for the 7-inch. It's way too big for one of these, but there's a size in between these two. I don't even buy them anymore. And that's what burns these motors out. It's probably what burnt the motor out on this one, is an oversized wheel. Not this one, but Well, this one will fit on there, but it's way, way, way too big. It just doesn't, the motor doesn't have enough power to turn the bigger wire brushes. So the motor overheats because it's not getting the air to blow the heat off, dissipate the heat. Anyway, I'm rambling on, but that's what I'm up to today. So, put these all away and go play in the rain, I guess. She lives for another day. It's twice she almost died. Still going. So that'll remind me that it's been repaired twice now. So if it goes again, man, it's done its duty. Thanks for watching.